Columbus, I was well known as an Italian explorer and navigator, as you may know. I heard a lot of people wanting to know how did I become well known, what's about my life journey, what's about my journey all through about my life. The same meaning, sorry. Well, I was pretty well known for who I stumbled upon the Americas and whose journeys marked the beginning of centuries of transatlantic colonization. Well, first, I made 4 trips. I was born at 31 October 1451, and I was born in Italy. And well, yes, and again, I was well known for having for completing four voyages and crossing the Atlantic Ocean and discovering America. Well, I'm here to tell you. Well, now I'm gonna tell you about my journey. Well, I made 4 trips across the Atlantic Ocean from Spain in 1492, 1493, 1498, and 1502. I was determined to find a direct water route west from Europe to Asia, but I never did. Instead, I stumbled upon the Americas, though I did not really discover the New World, millions of people already lived there. My journey marked the beginning of centuries of exploration and colonization of North and South America. Well, the Age of Discovery. During the 5th and 16th century, leaders of several European nations sponsored expeditions abroad in the hope that explorers would find great wealth and vast undiscovered islands. The Portuguese were the earliest participants in Age of Discovery, also known as Age of Exploration. Starting in about 1420, small Portuguese ships known as caravels zipped along the African coast, carrying spices, gold, slaves, and other goods from Asia and Africa to Europe. Did you know I was not the first person to propose that a person could reach Asia by sailing west from Europe? In fact, scholars argue that the idea is almost as old as the idea that the earth is round. That dates back to early Rome. Other European nations, particularly Spain, were eager to share in the seemingly limitless riches of the Far East. By the end of the 15th century, Spain's Reconquista, the expulsions of Jews and Muslims out of the kingdom after centuries of war, was complete, and the nation turned its attention to exploration and conquest in other areas of the world. Well, that is my journey, but there's still more. Now I'm gonna talk about my early life. I was the son of a wool merchant. Is believed to have been born in Genoa. Yeah, in Italy. I was actually born in Genoa in 1451. When I was still a teenager, I got a job on a merchant ship. I remained at sea until 1476 when pirates attacked my ship as it sailed north along the Portuguese coast. The boat sank, but young me floated to shore on a scrap of wood and made my way to Lisbon, where I eventually studied mathematics, astronomy, cartography, and navigation. I also began hatch the pain that would change the world forever. Well, that's all about my personal life. Now, let's talk about my first voyage. At the end of the 15th century, it was nearly impossible to reach Asia from Europe by land. The route was long and arduous, and encounters with hostile armies were difficult to avoid. Portuguese explorers solved this problem by taking the sea. We sailed along the West African coast and around the Cape of Good Hope. But I had a different idea. Why not sail west across the Atlantic instead of around the massive African continent? The young navigators' logic was sound, but my math was faulty. I argued that the circumference of the Earth was much smaller than his contemporaries believed it was. Accordingly, I believed that journey by boat from Europe to Asia should be not only possible but comparatively easy via as yet undiscovered Northwest Passage. I presented my plan to officials in Portugal and England, but it was not until 1492 that I found a sympathetic audience: the Spanish monarchs Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile. I wanted fame and fortune. Ferdinand and Isabella wanted the same, along with opportunity to export Catholicism to lands across the globe. I, a definite Catholic, was equally enthusiastic about this possibility. I contract with Spanish rulers, promised that I could keep 10% of whatever riches I found, along with a noble title and the governorship of any lands that I should encounter. Niña Pinta and Santa Maria. On August 3, 1492, Columbus and me and my crew set sail from Spain in 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, on October 12. The ships made landfall not in the East Indies as I assumed, but on one of the Bahamian islands like San Salvador. For months, I sailed from island to island in what we know as the Caribbean, looking for the pearls, precious stones, gold, silver, spices, and other objects and merchandise whatsoever that I promised to my Spanish patrons, but I did not find much. In January 1493, leaving several dozen men behind in makeshift settlement on Hispaniola, present day by Haiti and the Dominican Republic, I left for Spain. I kept detailed diary during my first voyage. I, Christopher Columbus, journal was written between August 3, 1492 and November 6, 1492, and mentions everything from the wildlife and encountered like dolphins, birds, to the weather, to the moods of my crew. More troublingly, it also recorded his initial impressions of the local people and his argument for why they should be enslaved. They bought us parrots and balls of cotton and spears and many other things, which we exchanged for the glass beads and hawk's bells. I wrote the willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them, for I showed them a sword. They took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron. They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. I gifted the journal to Isabella upon my return. And lastly, Christopher, my later voyages, about 6 months later, in September 1493, I returned to the Americas, and I found Hispaniola settlement destroyed and left my brothers Bartolomeo and Diego Columbus behind to rebuild, along with part of my ship crews and hundreds of enslaved indigenous people. Then I headed west to continue my mostly fruitless search for gold and other goods. My group now included a large number of indigenous people the Europeans had enslaved in lieu of the material riches I had promised the Spanish monarchs. I sent some 500 slaves to Queen Isabella. The queen was horrified. She believed that any people Columbus that I discovered were Spanish subjects who could not be enslaved, and she promptly and sternly returned the explorer's gift. My gift, to be specific. In May 1498, I sailed west across the Atlantic Oceans for the first time. I visited Trinidad and the South American mainland before returning to the ill-fated Hispaniola settlement, where the consists and staged a bloody revolt against the Columbus brothers. Management and brutally conditions were so bad that Spanish authorities never mind. Well, lastly, legacy of Christopher Columbus of me. I did not discover the Americas, nor was I even the first European to visit the New World. However, my journey kicked off centuries of exploration and exploitation on the American continents. The Columbian exchange transferred people, animals, food, and disease across cultures. Old World wheat became an American food staple. African coffee and Asian sugarcane became cash crops for Latin America, while American foods like corn, tomatoes, and potatoes were introduced into European diets. Today, I has 4 controversial legacy. I remembered as a daring and path-breaking explorer who transformed the New World, yet my actions also unleashed changes that would eventually devastate the native population my and my fellow explorers encountered. And that's all. Well, I'm sorry it's not that much, but well, I hope you all enjoyed this story. And last one, information. I died at the year at 20 May 1506, and that was a long time ago. So that means